Hey 10, it's just me again. Just want to go quickly over question number 10. So in this case, we know that we have a triangle, and that triangle has um, say three different angles. We have one at say 20 degrees, one a little bit wider at say 40 degrees, and then we're going to have one well, significantly wider at say 120 degrees. So I've got this angle right here, which is going to be 120 degrees, this angle right here, which is 20 degrees, and this angle right here, which is 40 degrees. Now, the most important thing to remember here is that in a triangle, the longest side is across from the biggest angle, and the shortest side is across from the smallest angle. So here it says that the longest side of the triangle is 10 centimeters longer than the shortest side. So we can set a variable for our shortest side. So we're going to let our shortest side be x. Well, now we know that the longest side then is going to be x plus 10. It's going to be 10 centimeters bigger than whatever the shortest side was. And then we have this other unknown side, which we're just going to call y. So in this case, I have a variable x here and a variable x here and a variable y here. I only have two variables and two unknowns. So I don't need to solve the question as a linear system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and solve for x first. Okay. So I know that I have x over sine 20 is equal to x plus 10 over the sine of 120. Okay, and so if I rearrange all this, I just need to isolate x's on one side and my numbers on the other. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to do the sine of 120 times x is equal to the sine of 20 times x plus 10. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to just simply approximate what the sine of 120 is. So I'm going to put it into the calculator. So I've got the sine of 120, and that is equal to 0.8660. So there you go. So I'm going to put 0.86. So here I'm going to do 0.866x. And then on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to figure out what the sine of 20 is. So I'm going to do the sine of 20, and that is 0.3420. So I can write 0.342. So this is going to be 0.342 times x plus 10. So I have 0.866x is equal to, and so now I'm going to distribute this inside. So I have 0.342x, and then I'm also going to multiply it by 10. So that's going to be plus 3.42. So now I just have an equation with x's on two sides. So I'm going to take the x to the other side and solve. So I'm going to do 0.866x minus 0.342x is equal to 3.42. So 0.866 minus 0.342 is equal to 0.524. So I have 0.524x is equal to 3.42. And then I can bring the 0.524 over to the other side. When I do so, it was being multiplied by x, so now it's going to be divided. So I have 3.42 divided by 0.524. I plug that into my calculator, and I get 6.527. So x is equal to 6.53. So that's my shortest side. Well, now then I know that my longest side here is x plus 10. So I know that x plus 10 is equal to 6.53 plus 10, which is equal to 16.53. So I'm almost done. I now need to figure out what y is so that I can figure out the perimeter of my triangle, because I now have two sides and I want to figure out the third. So I'm going to do y over sine 40. So now I can solve it. Now I know these two sides. I can solve for this side using the sine law in any of those two sides. So I'm going to do y over sine 40 is equal to x, which is 6.53, over the sine of 20. So again, I'm solving for y, so I'm bringing the sine 40 to the other side. It becomes a multiplication. Divide by the sine of 20. So in my calculator, I still have the 6.53 there. I'm going to multiply that by the sine of 40, and then I'm going to divide that by the sine of 20, and I end up with y equals 12.2662, or approximately 12.27. So now I have my three side lengths, so my perimeter is going to equal x plus 10 plus y. So that's going to be 6.53 plus 16.53 plus 12.27. And when I plug all of that into my calculator, I get 6.53 plus 16.53 plus 12.27, and that comes to 35.33 centimeters. So just to recap on this one, we have we have created our triangle, and we know that the shortest side is across from the smallest angle, and that the biggest side is across from the biggest angle. And so what has happened here then is you can first solve using your x's to solve for x, because there's only one variable here. We just set it up as a ratio, so we have x over sine 20 equals x plus 10 over sine 120. We can take the sine 120 to this side, so it becomes sine 120 times x, and we can take the sine 20 to this side, so it becomes sine 20 times x plus 10. So again, I'm just going to plug the sine 120 into my calculator, and when I do so, I get 0.8660 x. And then I'm going to plug the sine 20 into my calculator, and when I do so, I get 0.3420 times x plus 10. So here I need to distribute this or carry this into the bracket. So it's 0.342x and 0.342 times 10, which is 3.42. In the rest of this, I'm just solving an equation. So I move the 0.342 to the other side. It becomes a subtract. Then I do the math on this, and I get the 0.524x. Now I'm going to move the 0.524 to the other side. It's the opposite operation. It becomes a division. And when I do the math on this, I get the 6.53. So looking at this, that's my x. I know my longest side is x plus 10, so it's going to be 6.53 plus 10, which is 16.53. Well, now I know these two sides, so I can use either one of them in terms of solving my triangle. So I'm just going to use the sine law because I don't know y, but I do know sine 40. I do know that x is 6.53, and I do know that this angle. So using the sine law, y over sine 40 equals 6.53 over sine 20. I move the sine 40 to the other side. It becomes a multiplication. I plug it all into my calculator, and I get 12.27. So now I have all three sides, 12.27, 6.53, and 16.53. I add them all up, and I end up with 35.33 centimeters. Hope that helps.